It started with the cologne. Not the scent itself. It was expensive, clean, too sharp to be his usual. It was the timing. One night he came home wearing it, and when I asked about the change, he said his coworker had recommended it. Then came the late nights. The long client dinners, the drained phone battery, the shirts smelling faintly of someone else's perfume, not my soft floral one, but something deeper, bolder. I wanted to believe him. God, I did. Because when you've built your life around someone, suspicion feels like betrayal, even when you're the one being betrayed. My name is Mara Ellison, and for 7 years, I was married to a man who could look me in the eyes and lie like it was love. Ethan wasn't cruel. That was the worst part. He was charming, thoughtful, the kind of man who remembered anniversaries and left notes on the fridge. He'd pour me coffee in the mornings and kiss my forehead like I was fragile. We met at a mutual friend's housewarming. I was 28, a freelance photographer barely keeping my head above water. He was a financial consultant with a confident smile and a steady paycheck. He said he liked that I saw the world differently. For a while, I thought that was true. Then our differences became distance. My world stayed messy, creative, unpredictable. His became all briefcases and business trips. Still, I told myself that's what marriage is: balancing, compromising, trusting. Until I started noticing things that didn't add up. It began small. A lipstick mark on his coffee mug, not mine. A missed call from a number saved only as A. A receipt from a restaurant across town, time-stamped during one of his supposed late meetings. When I confronted him gently, he smiled, cupped my face, and said, "Mara, you're overthinking again." That word, again, it cut deeper than the lie itself. Like he'd already decided the problem wasn't what he was doing, it was me. So I started doubting myself. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe the cologne was a coincidence. Maybe AL was just a client. But then came the night that changed everything. He said he'd be home late, a conference call with New York. At 10:37 p.m., I drove to his office building. Not out of fury, but because something inside me had stopped believing his words. The building was dark, the parking lot nearly empty, except for his silver sedan parked near the side entrance, and right next to it, a red convertible. I sat there, engine off, watching as the side door opened. Ethan stepped out first, jacket unbuttoned, tie loosened, that easy grin plastered on his face. Behind him, a woman, younger, elegant, with dark hair and a red scarf. She touched his arm as she laughed. He brushed a strand of her hair behind her ear. Then he kissed her, softly, familiar, like it wasn't the first time. People always talk about the moment they knew. That's mine. Sitting in a cold car, watching the man I built my life with touch someone else like I was already gone. I didn't cry. I didn't even move. I just felt something inside me shift, not break, rearrange. Because in that instant, I understood something important. When someone betrays you with that much calm, you don't destroy them with rage, you destroy them with clarity. For the next week, I played my role perfectly. The loving wife, the understanding partner, the woman who smiled when he said he had another late night. But behind that smile, I was learning everything I needed to know. Her name was Alicia Langford, the AL in his phone. A junior associate at his firm, 26, ambitious, married too, according to the framed photos on her public social media profile. I watched quietly as they built their little lie, business dinners, after-hours team meetings, and the more I watched, the more I realized he wasn't just cheating. He was rehearsing a new life. One night, I sat on the edge of our bed scrolling through my phone. Ethan was in the shower humming. I opened the flower delivery app I'd used for years, the one where he'd order me roses on birthdays and anniversaries. His account was saved there. And suddenly, the plan bloomed in my mind. Fully formed, simple, perfect. He'd given me all the tools himself. I just had to use them. 2 days later, I sent the flowers. White lilies, elegant and understated. A note attached. From your wife. I used his account, his credit card, his signature. Delivery address, Alicia Langford's office. He was supposed to be there that afternoon, reviewing end-of-quarter reports. And I knew, when the flowers arrived at her desk, surrounded by coworkers, she'd read that note aloud. Because people always do. That evening, I cooked dinner. His favorite, lemon risotto, seared scallops, a glass of chilled white wine waiting at his place. I set the table like it was just another Thursday. 8 o'clock came, then 9. He didn't come home. No call, no text, just silence. When I finally crawled into bed, I stared at the ceiling and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Because silence, in that moment, was louder than any confession. He didn't show up the next morning either, or the one after. I got an email from his assistant on Monday. Ethan requested to have his belongings shipped to another address. He'll be in touch regarding next steps. No apology, no explanation, just a clean administrative severance from the life we'd built. It should have shattered me, but it didn't, because I already knew where he'd gone, and I already knew it wouldn't last. For a few months, he stayed with her. I didn't need to confirm it. The silence told me enough. I signed the divorce papers quietly, sold the house, moved into a smaller apartment near the waterfront. It was strange at first, the quiet, the empty space where his voice used to be. But then it became freedom. I started photographing again, really photographing, not just for clients. Street corners, shadows, reflections in puddles, things people overlooked. There was something beautiful about learning to see the world without him in the frame. 6 months later, I ran into him at a coffee shop downtown. He looked tired, thinner. The crisp polish he used to wear like armor was gone. "Mara," he said, half smiling. "Wow, you look good." I smiled politely. "You too." We sat. Small talk, weather, work, the usual dance of two people pretending they weren't once married. Then he sighed. "You know, what happened? It just got complicated. Alicia and I cut him off gently. "You don't owe me an explanation." He hesitated, searching my face. "She thought you sent those flowers to humiliate her." I tilted my head. "Did I?" He looked down. "She left 2 weeks later, said she couldn't trust me." I stirred my coffee, slow and calm. "Trust," I said, "is a fragile thing." When he finally left, I watched him walk away, smaller somehow, like the arrogance had deflated. And I realized something. I didn't want revenge. I'd already had it. Not in the flowers, not in the silence, but in the fact that he had to live with the ruins of his own choices. Because the truth about betrayal is that it doesn't destroy you, it exposes you. And sometimes, exposure is the cruelest kind of justice. That night, I went home, made tea, and stood by my window watching the lights shimmer on the water. For the first time, I didn't picture him with her. I pictured me, still here, still standing, still capable of beauty. The camera sat on my desk, lens cap off. I lifted it, focused on the reflection of the city in my window, and pressed the shutter. The click echoed softly. That sound? It didn't capture an image. It captured closure. It's been 2 years now. I've built a photography studio, small but thriving. People come to me to capture love, beginnings, milestones, and sometimes heartbreak. Every photo, I tell them, is a record of truth. No filters, no edits. Just what is. Because I've learned that truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to be seen. Sometimes, when clients ask if I'm married, I smile and say, not anymore. But I learned a lot about perspective, and I mean it. People think revenge is fire and fury, screaming, breaking things, setting lives ablaze. But real revenge? It's patience, it's silence, it's letting someone step into their own downfall while you quietly rebuild yourself. That's what the flowers were, a mirror. Because when you love someone enough to see them clearly and they betray that, the most poetic thing you can do is make them see themselves. The night I sent those flowers, I didn't do it to win. I did it to end the game. And when he didn't come home, I didn't lose him. He lost the version of me that still believed his lies. Now, when I walk past florists, I stop sometimes. The scent of lilies still lingers, sharp, clean, final. And I think about how the smallest act of truth can unravel the biggest illusion. He used to say I was too emotional, too sensitive, too intense. But the truth is, he mistook sensitivity for weakness. And that's his story to live with. Mine's simpler. I don't send flowers anymore. I grow them. Because some endings bloom quietly, and that's their power.
You've just stepped into her revenge side, where every wound finds its justice, and every silence ends with truth. If her story struck a chord, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. Another secret waits in the next video. See how her revenge begins.